Your sound is off.
Before we proceed, is
Oh,
that better?
they can't hear us at all. Just reading the chat.
Hang on. I will.
Now it works.
Okay. Okay. Sorry for this technical mishap, guys. All right, then. Before we go on with the AMA for today, I suppose some words of congratulations and appreciation are in order for the ladies of the Wombat family. Know that you're awesome, and we hope that you truly have taken time to celebrate your achievements, your everything that there is about you, not just yesterday, but every day of your life, basically.
Fun fact, and congrats from my side as well. Fun fact is that in Berlin, where we're based in, the International Women's Day is a public holiday. So, yeah, women and also obviously everybody else have a lot of time to celebrate that day.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So drop a hand in the chat if you also had a national holiday yesterday. All right. February, the last month of winter, was pretty busy for Spielworks with Wombat, Woplay, and a lot of other cool things from our partners. So let's take a look at what we have achieved, what we've done since the last AWA. Share it with the community.
Yeah, so we've obviously added more games to OnePlay as we always do, and I think there have been some really cool games that we've added. We're also working on, because now we're getting a lot of games onto the platform, we're also working on being able to show them better to everyone.
Oh, yeah.
So that's, to us, that's probably a bigger part than to any single person, because some of you may not even have noticed any changes, which is a good thing. We'll continuously work on that, because obviously we can't just dump dozens or hundreds of games on you and expect you to find what you're looking for. So there will be more changes to come when it comes to how we actually display the games to you. I think that's the biggest. Then we've been rolling out new features, especially in the Wombat wallet, and especially like new onboarding.
Yeah.
It's not out on all platforms yet, but very close. So that will be very visible, especially for first-time users who try Wombat for the first time, and that's kind of the main things that we've shipped. There's a lot that we'll be able to announce very, very soon, because we've been working on a lot of other really cool things. We've been obviously we got caught on with the NFT hype. You can't escape that right now, and I guess we'll get to that a little later. So it's been a busy but short month, right? February is always a really short.
So many things to do, and so little time. It's not just February, but this is truly the month when it kind of you kind of feel it the most with
It
the crazy little amount of time you have.
Yeah, although you said that this was the last month of winter in Berlin, at least it still feels like winter.
I mean, coming from someone who wasn't raised in Germany or Berlin, things could go things could be so much worse regarding the weather, but not gonna argue with that one. Yeah, the winter's hold is still tighter than we might have wanted it, but hey, today it feels like spring is making its first moves already. And so, are we making our first moves with the questions for today? Thanks a lot to everyone who sent them in advance. We received many of those. Unfortunately, a lot of those were, support requests, but don't be afraid. These will be handled, in the normal support flow. Today we're talking about things OnePlay, Wombat, blockchain, general, and all that stuff. And let's begin with some fundamentals. We pride ourselves to kind of be the gateway for people to the EOS and TELOS blockchains, one of the most active ones across, the whole blockchain space, which is pretty amazing. And we received a question about the fundamental differences between those. So what sets TELOS apart, and what's it the best network for, and what sets EOS apart, Adrian? What do you think about this?
I mean, first of all, they're based on the same technology, right? That's called EOS.io. It's a bit hard to grasp the difference between EOS and EOS.io. And there's two things EOS. There's the EOS network and there's the EOS token, which basically form the EOS ecosystem. And EOS.io is the software that all runs on. And that software, the EOS.io software, has been designed and implemented as an open source software. So anybody can take it and run their own blockchain network on top of it, so long as they have block producers. And this is precisely what Telos have done. They have started their own blockchain using the same technology. And well, the first big difference here is that when the EOS mainnet launched, part of its sales proposition during the ICO that they've done for EOS was that obviously everyone gets their tokens that they've bought in the ICO, and there was a lot of tokens and a lot of money when the ICO went on back in 2017, 2018, right? It was a year-long ICO, and Block One raised $4 billion in crypto during that ICO back then. Crazy, right?
Absolutely.
And when they launched the public mainnet, the EOS mainnet, in 2018, the starting ledger of the mainnet basically contained all the balances that people had purchased during the ICO, and so Telos didn't have that, right? They didn't do that kind of ICO, so their distribution mechanism was a different one. Also, what they claim, or one of their main sales arguments, is that they're generally much more decentralized, and that goes for both the tokens. So there aren't like these big players who acquired a lot of EOS, or in this case, Telos tokens. In EOS, we have that, right? People who have participated in the ICO and bought a large chunk. They're there, so they are holding a lot of EOS. And also, Block One is still holding about 10% of the total EOS supply. So they still have a lot of influence in this space. And that's unlike Telos, where the Telos organization, I don't remember the name exactly.
The Telos Foundation, you mean?
I think they originally were called Good Block.
Yeah.
They were just holding 5 million Telos tokens. which is much less, and also in terms of percentage, that's much less. So that makes the distribution of Telos tokens much more distributed, much more decentralized than on EOS. And there's a few kind of less obvious differences. So for developers, this may make a difference, but for users, it usually wouldn't, right? Because the look and feel of Telos is generally very, very much the same as EOS. But for developers, for instance, the cost of making a transaction, the cost for RAM, and the cost for CPU, they're much lower on Telos. So it's cheaper to run applications on Telos than it is on EOS, right? Also Telos has a slightly different governance for proposals and things like that. But that's really very fine-grained stuff. All in all, you got to say that whatever you run on the EOS mainnet, you can always deploy on Telos as well, and this will give you a very similar experience, right? I think it's good to have a bit of competition between these networks,
for sure,
and to have them specialize on certain aspects of what you can use blockchain for, especially over time, depending on their use cases. And Telos has been fairly successful over the last couple of months, when their token price went up from, I don't know, 2 or 3 cents to 30 up until last week, and it dropped a little bit, but I think we're still above 20. So that's been quite a nice rise, and obviously Telos has been getting a lot of attention because of that.
Oh yes, absolutely. I don't know about you, but I also have this feeling that EOS is more tailored to those kind of industrial scale things, or let's say the kind of the level of that is a little bit bigger. The focus of this network is a little bit bigger, while Telos, these guys, they do amazing work when it comes to a person-centered sort of solutions or projects, like the Ethereum machine, the privacy thing, the location project where people can mine tokens for sharing location data, and so on and so forth. I think
that's more of a kind of, as you said, right, marketing kind of thing. And in the end, this will influence what your ecosystem is going to look like, right? Depending on which partners you acquire, what kind of dApps you have deployed on your network, this will very much influence how people use it. So recently, over the last 6 to 9 months, we've seen a lot of DeFi running on EOS, and that's a very cool thing. And it's not there isn't as much DeFi running on Telos yet, right? Especially when it comes to there's like the number of tokens that are being used, and the amount of liquidity that's there, the number of use cases, and so on, right? That's simply because of how the ecosystem has been formed.
Yeah, although I have to say that they've had this tremendous success with the recent swap, from the Telos blockchain to Ethereum and the Uniswap partnership. So I don't want to pick favorites here. I just want to kind of, appreciate what they've done so far as a sort of a fork of EOS. But speaking of picking favorites, do you have favorite EOS and Telos projects besides Wombat? Obviously, that's like a no-brainer.
To be honest, I mean, on EOS, it's mostly been DeFi that I've been looking into. I think last time I already mentioned organics.
Yep.
I still think that this has huge potential, but I also think that the DeFi box and DeFi's projects have been they've been performing really well. in terms of how much volume is going on their platforms, but also they've been like launching cool features and things in general that can be connected with them. So they keep innovating a lot, and this is very cool. So I really very much appreciate the DeFi space on EOS, especially as it's so much usable as compared to others other DeFi ecosystems.
We won't be dropping
On
names, but
not yet. Um, on Telos, it's a bit harder to say because they're not as kind of prominent like these projects. I still very much appreciate the games on Telos.
yeah.
So it's a hard choice here, but recently I've been leaning towards DeFi a little bit.
Oh yeah, I have to say that with the DeFi space in on EOS, what I really do love is that these projects are not built for the sake of them being DeFi. They actually have, usability and the diversification in mind when improving, which is pretty cool. I think this is kind of I guess both a blessing and a curse with having a relatively smaller community than Ethereum, but then again, the actual live user feedback just gets to people much faster, and it allows the space to improve much faster as well. But hey, since we got onto this kind of like individual user level, what do you think are the benefits of blockchain as technology in general for individuals, simple average people?
Well, that's a very broad question.
I know, right?
And
I was like, there are so many.
well, yeah, many, but also many, and let's be honest here, many that are more of the hypothetical sort, right? And not like livable yet, or like can't be experienced yet in its purest form. So if we talk on a kind of more visionary level, it's basically keeping control of all your assets, like specifically digital assets and financial assets, and not have intermediaries there. And when I talk to people, especially here in Germany, they always say, "Okay, so what's the point? I mean, banks work." Yeah, in Germany they kind of do, but in most parts of the world they don't, and then it becomes very interesting to have a decentralized alternative that you can control yourself, right? Obviously, this comes with a caveat that we need that adoption, and that's we still have a little way to go here, right? But to give you a very practical example, we've been talking about organics. There's a similar project running on the Ethereum and Terra blockchains that's also synthetic assets. They have a slightly different focus in terms of which assets they list, because they have assets like Tesla shares and GameStop shares.
Yeah, right. I remember
So
that. Yeah.
yeah, so it's the Mirror protocol, right? And so you can trade not physical Tesla shares, but synthetic Tesla shares. What that means is that you don't have the share, you just trade the price. So you buy at the current market price, and you can always sell at the current market price. And it's a very complex structure that allows that. But the thing is that during the GameStop craze with Wall Street bets, when Robinhood and other trading platforms suddenly suspended trading of GameStop shares, this is something that can't happen to blockchain and blockchain-based dApps, right? So DeFi, if let's put it that way, if Robinhood and all these brokers had been based on blockchain, um, they couldn't have suspended buying of GameStop shares, which I guess for the majority of the people who were involved in Wall Street bets or who were closely watching that, that would have felt much fairer than
Oh
just
yeah.
interrupting their activities, right? And
No, but
this, I mean, the fact that Robinhood had to halt buying of GameStop was the beginning of the end of the GameStop hype.
oh yes, for sure. No, I mean, I saw a lot of frustrated people online regarding this whole situation because I feel like they were, screaming and looking for exactly that, this kind of a financial empowerment. Because a lot of them said that, oh yeah, they did this and that because God forbid the simple people will get a little bit richer, and yeah, this kind of a financial leverage on really the average Joe's holdings is, yeah, this is something that I personally feel that it needs to be resolved and it can be resolved with a blockchain.
It will be, and it will be resolved. It's just like having synthetic assets is a very, very good start, right? But they're synthetic, and you don't really hold the shares until we have the actual share being traded on the blockchain. It's that's a little bit further down the line. But what's important is that average people can already trade and make money trading assets like Tesla and GameStop without actually being dependent on platforms like Robinhood or their brokers like Citadel, right?
No,
They're clearinghouses.
yeah, absolutely. But I also have a feeling that this kind of a financial independence is one of the aspects that is discussed, the most when it comes to blockchain. Do you think maybe, and I guess you may agree with me, that in Germany there is a massive pain point with all kinds of paperwork, really, and and every time I have to encounter this, I just say to myself, it would be so much faster if it was based on a blockchain.
Well, I think that in the long run, regulators, they will not let you do all the stuff if it's possible on the blockchain without the paperwork. They
Utopian
will.
dream.
um, I mean, right now there's very little regulatory focus on these kinds of things, right? And it's even being discussed among regulators and lawmakers that we should let DeFi be for a time being because everyone wants to see how it turns out. And this is very surprising because I don't think that any of the incumbents in the market and the lobbyists, or at least not the majority, have realized what kind of threat that is to their existing model, right?
I
And
suppose, yeah.
I mean, DeFi, TVL, total value locked, and the volumes, they're going up and up and up and up, and there is no limit to that so far. And this is going to be propelled by the NFT wave that's coming now, and we're only at the very beginning of the NFT hype, right? I mean, right now it's glowing hot, but so that's
That's to say the
gonna
least.
yeah, that hype is that hype is gonna die down eventually, but there's gonna be a huge market still, right? If you look at all the things that are currently being put into NFTs, that will contribute at some point to the entire DeFi wave, right? There's going to be DeFi. Maybe we won't call that DeFi in a strict sense, but there's going to be a ton of DeFi based on NFTs as well, and they will simply blend into what people can currently do with DeFi already, and this may just be part of the usual products. So within a game, you'll have NFTs, you will have tokens, you'll be able to swap them very easily, you'll be able to lend them and borrow them. The same you're going to be able to do with NFTs, with in-game items that are NFTs, right? And it's just going to be part of your typical game front end. And there are things like that already in games, right? Like
Oh yeah.
savings accounts where you log in your in-game currencies and you get interest on that. And now you can do the same thing, but with something that has real-world value and that you can sell. I mean, that's so going to happen.
Oh yes, for sure. But since we're on the subject of DeFi and NFTs, both are also super prominent on Ethereum. As much as I love both of those things in EOS, I still have this impression that Ethereum is, well, mostly where the action is. So could you please describe what is to you the main difference between DeFi and also maybe NFT management on EOS and on Ethereum?
I mean, on Ethereum, basically the entire ecosystem is there and the assets are there. So you have so many tokens that are running on Ethereum that you can use in DeFi on Ethereum and that have a very significant market cap. So that means you can actually generate high volumes and high throughput in terms of money amounts with them. That it's there, like the Ethereum ecosystem is much more attractive for DeFi than any other ecosystem, right? We're currently seeing a lot of transition between chains, and that will crack that up to a certain extent. But of course, if you can trade a token or you can swap it on one chain and you have a lot of liquidity there, or you can do it on another chain and you have very little liquidity there, then you'll always tend towards the high liquidity as long as your amounts are big, right? So the higher amount, the more you will tend towards Ethereum, the more volume you want to trade. So this is not a technical issue, right?
Yeah.
So it's not enough to just bring a faster blockchain and some DeFi applications on top of that to actually take a portion of the Ethereum DeFi volume and get it on another chain. That's not going to happen just like that. Because so long as you're in this ecosystem and you have assets, and a lot of assets, and you want to trade, then you'll always go to Ethereum. That's very hard to crack up. However, it's very exclusive. It's not easy to deal with amounts that are smaller than, let's say, $1,000 or $5,000
Oh yeah, for sure.
on Ethereum, because you're paying super high gas fees, and it's simply not worth it, right? And this is where EOS has its strengths, really, and it's for first-time DeFi users. I honestly haven't seen any better experience than what you can get on the EOS DeFi ecosystem, right? So when you use swap on DeFi's or on Pizza or on DeFi Box, that feels flawless and seamless compared to even Uniswap, which is very simple on Ethereum. But you don't have to deal with the gas, and that allows for a much better experience, right?
Yep.
And we've launched this Bitcoin EOS swap feature, which a lot of people are using because it's the simplest way of swapping EOS to Bitcoin or PBTC, and vice versa, right? So this kind of experience you can't build on Ethereum, at least not without layer 2 technologies, and they're not. The experience isn't there yet. So I think that's the main difference, that you get a much better experience at the expense of having a much smaller ecosystem and much fewer assets. And I'm always fascinated by how much stuff's going on Ethereum DeFi and how much liquidity there is and how many tokens are tradable. This is just crazy.
Yeah, I know. But on the other hand, as you said, it's not as inclusive as EOS. If you go to the crypto Twitter on any given day, you will always find people moaning about the gas fees whenever they wanted to perform a swap, or if they are an NFT artist. This is also a blow to their livelihood, essentially, because this is how they make money. And they are paying ridiculous amounts of it just to, just to mint something and then just to give it to someone. It's absolutely insane, really.
Yeah.
But
And that's what's so cool about DeFi on EOS with Wombat, right? You have a few dollars left, or you earned them in one play. You can start with as little as like 10 cents or 20 cents, dollar cents worth of EOS, and you can start swapping them. You can use them in pizza. You can trade on organics. You can stake liquidity. You can do all the things, even with amounts as small as 50 cents or 20 cents. And that's what I find very fascinating, because you can just try it out at like almost no risk, right? And see whether it's for you, whether it gives you benefits or just joy, the joy of being able to handle stuff all by yourself. And yeah, I can only encourage everyone to just try it out and do a few transactions on DeFi. They're free, right?
exactly.
There's literally no risk, and you can hold Bitcoin in Wombat. You can just swap your EOS for PBTC, and it's as good as Bitcoin. And transaction costs for Bitcoin for PBTC are obviously much
Close to
smaller.
zero compared
Yeah,
to
they're
BTC.
zero in Wombat. Yeah, they're close to zero in general. So you can just float your Bitcoin on over the EOS network and deal with it and stack Sats if you want.
Exactly. And I think it also works perfectly for those who, I don't know, aren't really looking for the main DeFi helps, but just as an entry point to move on to bigger things, whether it's going to be Ethereum or, classic forms of trading, handling assets, DeFi on EOS is a good playground as much as the main thing as well. But it's funny that you mentioned OnePlay, because this seems to be the hot topic in the chat and in our questions. So get ready, because that's going to be quite a blast with those. We starting with the simple question about rewards, and this is actually something we have never been asked before, surprisingly. Will there be any other rewards in OnePlay than just EOS?
Yeah, so the idea behind being able to redeem $1 for EOS or earning EOS was that we wanted to reward everyone playing games on OnePlay with something that's as much like cash as possible, right? So EOS comes fairly close to it because it's fast. We can send it worldwide, borderlessly, and at pretty much no cost and immediately, right?
Yep.
So that is very cool, and it's very liquid. So liquid means in terms of you can exchange it for your local currency in pretty much any currency, and so basically in pretty much any country. And you can do that at all kinds of amounts. Obviously, it depends on your country and the means that you're using. But in many countries, there is like Coinbase. If you don't have Coinbase, you can use crypto locally, or other exchanges or services to redeem your EOS for your local currency, right? So that's as close as it gets when it comes to cash-like rewards that are still on the blockchain. So that come with the benefits that we can settle them and send them worldwide at pretty much no cost. Okay, so that's the reason to do EOS. Now, there's a ton of things that might be more interesting than EOS because, I mean, I think that getting EOS is already pretty interesting based on what we just discussed regarding DeFi, right?
Yep.
So you can obviously go ahead and start dealing with DeFi immediately, but it would be very cool to be able to earn synthetic assets like Tesla shares, right? And we can do that, and we will do that. So you will have the possibility, depending on what's available on the DeFi protocols, we'll be able to give you rewards in Tesla shares or GameStop shares. And how cool would that be, right?
I'm like mind blown here right now. Rewards in Tesla shares, like what?
Right? Talking about the benefits of blockchain, right? And so that's one route that we're going, right? That we can add all kinds of other assets that are non-cash, that don't feel as much as cash. And the other direction that we're currently pursuing is NFTs. And well, we're prioritizing that a little bit higher right at the moment because there's a lot of questions regarding NFTs right now. We already always had planned to have NFT-based rewards in OnePlay, right? So that you can redeem Wombats in one way or another for NFTs, and this might be NFTs that you can't otherwise get. There will be like two general kinds. Very likely, one will be items that you can use on OnePlay directly that give you benefits on OnePlay, and there will be things that you can use outside of OnePlay. Or, I mean, with art, the word "use" is always a bit weird, right? But that could be art collectibles that you can earn maybe exclusively on OnePlay. So these are the kinds of rewards that we're going after. We're working on it. We're on our path. It will be there soon.
Nice. Can you think of an example for a benefit or on OnePlay? Will it be like increased earning $1 rate for like time-based rewards or something?
You got it.
Okay. Now that's definitely interesting. So you heard it here first, OnePlayers and Wombat family. You might get some awesome exclusive NFTs if you're here, and especially if you're a kick-ass player, I gather. But we're just teasing, but I think we will talk about it in detail at a different AMA, maybe. So, stay tuned,
yeah, and
folks.
obviously on our usual channels, right?
Yes, for sure. But there's another thing concerning rewards, which I think many of the community members, specifically not talking about all of the OnePlay users, saw happening on the platform. Maybe not to them, but in the community hubs. Why do certain games not trigger rewards? And what do people do about it? What is this all?
Let's start with the second part first. What do we do about it? Obviously, it's always good if they reach out. We're not trying to discriminate anybody or to strip you from your rewards. It's simply we're dependent on how the publishers of the games handle the so-called attribution. So obviously they need to tell us that they've received certain actions from OnePlayers, right? and sometimes that doesn't work. There can be many reasons. That can be privacy browsers to begin with. All right, so Firefox and Brave may be more problematic there. So if you're using Firefox or Brave to access OnePlay, it may be easier to get your rewards when you download the games through, let's say, Chrome, Safari, or whatever else you might be using on your phone. So it's basically beyond our control, and it's also very hard to fix that, and that's not cool. That's definitely not cool. We're working on these things with the publisher. So whenever we see something that's kind of systematic, we always try to get back to them and to find a solution for that. And we also, yeah, we can sometimes at least maybe not fix the problem, but at least help a little bit with some extra rewards, right? So it's always important for us that whenever you reach out to us, like you WOM players, that you let us know what kind of setup you're using, and which device, what browser, which country you're in, because sometimes this may be a problem with the local store. I mean, there's over 190 different Google Play stores out there, and it's really, really hard to have everything working in all on all aspects. And this should not be an excuse. This is just an explanation. So please keep reaching out to us in case you're experiencing problems. It might work for one game, might not work for another. So we're here to help you. And I mean, obviously, mostly Olga and Alejandro are taking care of these things.
Oh yes, and as Adrian said, we're not sort of shying away from this fact. We're looking for a solution, but both Alejandro and I are here for you, and please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We will always come back to you to the best of our ability.
Yeah, and I mean, just to be clear, what's in our best interest, and obviously in your interest, to reward you with the Wombats and the EOs that you deserve for doing what you're doing, right? For playing games.
Exactly.
So there's no rewards that we want to keep away from you. It's not at all that.
Exactly. I couldn't have said it better myself, honestly. Speaking of feedback, somebody asked if the games that they like in particular could be added to OnePlay. How can we see that through?
So we're, as usual, I can tell that we're always working on expanding our selection of games, and it's for us. We always need to have an agreement with the publisher first, right? So it's not like we can just add games and they're going to work, and we can reward you for playing them. We always need to talk to publishers first and get an agreement with them. So if you have any suggestions to whom we could reach out, and that it counts especially for the not so well-known publishers, because well, the well-known ones we know because they're well-known. They're kind of obvious, but we're always happy for suggestions, and so just keep suggesting them to us. But also feel free to jump on their chat or their social and suggest that this game be added to OnePlay, which will help us a lot, right? If they see that people would be happy to have their this game on OnePlay, this gives us a much a good kickstart, actually, when we talk to these publishers and to get this game out to you. We're aiming at having all games on OnePlay at some time. there are just so many, and yeah, let's do that. Whenever you see a game, feel free to reach out to us and suggest it, but also feel free to reach out to the publisher and ask them to add it to OnePlay.
So yeah, help us help you enjoy OnePlay more than you already do. The only kind of a side note, and we will also be working on that with the games that you played before. OnePlay may experience the same kind of hiccups with rewards, but this should not discourage you from sharing, because we, as always, when we say we get things done, we get them done, and this will be resolved as well. But there was another question that is kind of similar to that. It goes along the same lines. Will there be more niche games, or is it just going to be more like mainstream appeal titles? By niche ones, I assume they mean something like, I don't know, dating simulators or
Oh yeah,
card games like Magic the Gathering or Gwent.
I used to play Magic so much. Um, wouldn't consider that niche, though. Um, yeah, I mean, we always want to get as many games and as many different games to one players, right? And that includes the types of games as well. So if we can get more puzzle games and more RPGs and more um, what what have you, all kinds of games, we're always looking for like a maximum of diversity here, as usual. So specifically with smaller games that aren't as well known and as like publicly like renowned, it's nice if you can leave a suggestion, and we'll be able to figure out something with the publisher. It's should be an easier sell on the smaller publishers than on the Supercells and Activision Blizzards of this world.
Oh yes, for sure. But imagine that Microsoft Flight Simulator on OnePlay. Discover, I don't know, this certain city in Latin America plus 50,000 wombats. Boom. Doesn't help that there is a procedurally generated maps, but yeah, I remembered about that aspect too late.
If you could then land in an upland world and go to your flat that you own on the blockchain, well, why not?
Oh yes, that would be so awesome. All right, we're actually wrapping up with the questions that were sent in advance. So let's see what our chat has sent us. And as I told you, there are a lot of those questions. For example, regarding the games, do we as a team, asks Council Estate Reseller, play the games that are listed on OnePlay?
Of course.
It should be pointed out that we do it in a testing environment. We're not trying to rob you guys of your Wombats, but yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, I have my favorites. I really got hooked on Lords Mobile.
Oh.
And I really like Stonies because it's different. I've never. I mean, I did play games like that, but way back. So that's a bunch of games that I really like. I like most of them, but those two got stuck on my phone in particular.
Oh yeah. He also actually asked us about our favorites, so I guess you just followed up on that real quick.
You can tell yours.
It's such a tough question. I guess one would be Nova Empire.
I knew
because
that.
well, I'm a sucker for sci-fi, okay? If I can play Jean-Luc Picard, then I will take any opportunity to do that. And I don't know, maybe because it has this kind of macabre visual element to that, the rats, with with those doors with the tentacles are crawling out, and I immediately imagine that those poor rodents are sent into some kind of Lovecraftian setting, and yeah, that they have a lot more on their plate than just to proving their worth because the ancient gods might take them or something.
It's funny that you've mentioned two of the like very popular games. They're getting a lot of appreciation, I guess.
Oh yeah, I think with that's because of how different they feel compared to the previous titles, both visually and in terms of mechanics. But that actually is a question. Are you reading the chat in advance to create those neat connections? What's going on? You're on fire today, Adrian. What's the most
I'm not
popular?
reading the chat. I have to save a bit of bandwidth because I'm,
The
based in
German
Berlin.
internet. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, but what's our most popular title in history ever?
in history, yeah, I mean, it depends on how you kind of measure that. But I think it's Tasty Tale. Um,
Oh
it's this
yeah,
match three. I mean, can't beat that, right?
classic.
Um, and I mean, it's hard because I mean, Tasty Tale has been around on OnePlay for quite a while. We've also seen a lot of downloads. I mean, if we talk about downloads, then Hero Zero has been very popular. Forge of Empires has been very popular. Um, Lords Mobile has been very popular, and now recently, the last couple of weeks, were like one players were going crazy on those games.
Now for sure, it's
But we'll have to see how it plays out in the long run, right?
mhm.
But I mean, you obviously can't compare. Uh, oh well, we missed out on that, right? We've been live for more than 6 months now, so we had a half-year anniversary here. You can't compare games that have been around for half a year with games that have been around for a week. But
True.
we can see the hype. We can feel the hype.
For sure. No, I mean, all of those titles deserve to be blowing up amongst one players, honestly. It's not that I'm trying to kind of toot our own horn here, but I think we've been doing quite well with the kind of lineup we have in terms of quality and, you know, variety. As you said, we're always trying to find a lot of new things, a lot of different things. That's also a pretty interesting question about the games we would love to see on OnePlay, personally. Which one would you
Person
add? Yes.
Personally, um, that's I mean, this might sound very obvious,
Hmm.
but Clash Royale, I would be a huge fan of Clash Royale. I mean, it's also a very big thing in Germany, and I used to play it when it came out. So this would be awesome. And Among Us,
Oh,
obviously,
yeah.
kind of obviously, right? But we've
Yes,
been we've
yes.
been playing Among Us internally, and this would be awesome if folks could earn $1 for playing Among Us.
I
How
think
about you?
somebody even requested Among Us, and I just had this idea that it would also be super neat to mint the crewmates with different hats and different colors and whatnot as NFTs. Um,
Oh yeah.
I think that would be awesome. I mean, I don't
And if
know,
you kill them, you actually get their NFTs.
right? It's like it's already a working concept. It's crazy how streamlined this stuff on blockchain can be. But about me, I don't know. I feel like my ambitions regarding this are a tad bit too much. But I think that won't play. could reward people for being creative in games with games like oh god, I forgot the name, but there's this AI simulated text adventure or text quest essentially, where you via inputs manipulate a neural network to create your own adventure. It's difficult to assess this in terms of rewards, right? Because it simply might not have an end. But we could have, I don't know, some kind of contest entries once a month for the best story.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, recently, because my boyfriend has a massive back catalog of games. I've recently rediscovered The Witcher 3 for myself again 5 years later, and oh my god, this game is, I don't know, the godfather of games. But yeah,
Well, I
maybe
guess
someday.
that's, I don't know. Has The Witcher 3 been out on mobile as well?
No,
So then,
Gwent is,
hmm.
but I don't know. Although having Gwent cards as NFTs is pretty cool as well. They're neatly designed and whatnot. But yeah, no, I think The Witcher 3 would be too big for mobile. Um, yeah, just in terms of how, you know, it takes a lot of resources to display all of that in its magnificent glory. Sorry, everyone, for rambling. I'm a fangirl. Don't blame me for that, okay? All right, that's a pretty interesting one. If someone was to tell, you know, people who've never heard about us or blockchain or anything, if they were to tell, okay, there's this one play platform, what kind of things do you think they would definitely need to share to get people on board? What are the top things that define OnePlay as the best platform ever, really?
Um, isn't it as easy as saying you get paid in crypto for playing games? I mean, if you can play games and you can play games and get paid, what would you choose, right? So that's
Exactly.
the very short one. If we talk about more subtle kind of agenda,
Mm-hmm.
then I would say that um, we help people discover blockchain and what and the benefits that it brings. Um, we help average people who like playing games discover this world, right? And I think that with OnePlay as a game rewards platform and with Wombat as a wallet that ties into it, but also is very easy to use, and it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't require like any knowledge about resource costs, about RAM, and so on. I think it's one of the easiest ways of getting started with blockchain, even if initially you have no idea about it. And yeah, I think that's the two things, right? You get rewarded for playing, even if you're not interested in blockchain. And
Mm-hmm.
if your interest in blockchain grows over time, then you have a ton of things that you can do.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, I personally also think that with the personalization of people's experience on OnePlay and the kind of games that we already have, it's also, I think, giving it more of a it's a cool games hub spin will also work tremendously. It's not just, a dull paid for listicle from mobile games journalists that basically feed you the best games of 2021. It's really like it's curated enough for you not to get lost if you're interested in one big games, but at the very same time you have a lot of titles to choose from to spend your time on, and you will definitely find something for you. That's for sure. Speaking on the of the new things, David Griffin is asking if we will also have something new for Wombat Wallet out anytime soon, besides the onboarding flow that you already mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're it's too early to announce a timeline, but we're working on Ethereum support for the Wombat wallet. I think we've been talking about it a bunch of times already. That this will eventually come, and so we started working on it. And I think that's the biggest, right? So that whoever wants to start dealing with Ethereum after they've realized what they can do on the blockchain, they can also do it with kind of the more serious stuff on like Ethereum DeFi with the gas costs obviously, but also with all the space and ecosystem that's out there. So I think that's probably the biggest thing that we're working on when it comes to Wombat. We also have unstoppable domains support now, which is not as powerful as like as long as you're in the EOS ecosystem, but it's gonna get really helpful when we go into Ethereum and other blockchains. So these are things that are like very imminent, and yeah, I think that's. I mean, I'm pretty excited about Ethereum myself, and to be able to tap into that ecosystem. So that's probably the biggest things that we're already able to talk about.
Will we have the same swap interface for other P tokens like PETH, PLTT?
Yeah, there that will have that, not only P tokens, but hopefully a lot of other tokens. The biggest issue here is to keep it simple enough, right? So that you don't have to kind of scroll through hundreds of tokens. But yeah, or we're definitely planning that.
All right, that's good to know. There's a question from our MVP, Ben Daddy in the house, and he's asking us about staking. I assume that's staking of resources compared to renting. What are the advantages of that, or what is he missing out?
You mean with the power up resource system on EOS?
I suppose so,
Or
but just in case, I guess we can also cover staking, as a form of locking EOS in a DeFi hub.
I mean, there's so many types of staking. Maybe we want to get a bit more precise on that, right? But so like staking, when it comes to DeFi, there's obviously a lot of options to do that. There's like if we're talking about whether we would build a native feature into Wombat so that you can stake on DeFi, that would be very cool. We'll have to see when we're able to do that, right? With all the things that we're currently building, I would very much love that myself.
Oh, yeah.
When it comes to staking in terms of resources, I'm personally not a fan of staking CPU. So I would always rent on Rex because it's just much cheaper and you don't need, it's not cheaper in the sense of you pay less, but it's cheaper, it's smaller amounts that you have to deal with, right? And you get quite a lot of CPU for quite a small amount of money. So when I was asked whether I would rather stake EOS for CPU or rent on Rex, I would always rent on Rex, basically no matter what amount. It's a bit unflexible, and that's also what's going to get better with Power Up, that you're kind of more flexible in terms of how much you need. I think you still have the staking period of 30 days though. But yeah, or the renting period. But I would basically just rent, if that's the question.
For sure, Rex for the win. But yeah, with the power up model, I'm I honestly don't know because there seems to be kind of two main let's say groups around this update, right? Ones who think that this is exactly what EOS needed all this time, and the other people saying that, well, Rex is essentially the same thing. So there's no point in it, you know, being something separate for the entire network. But
Well, I personally, for most users, I prefer if they don't have to like deal with it at all, no matter whether it's one way or another, whether it's kind of a gas where I pay tokens for each individual transaction, whether that's renting out CPU themselves, whether it's Rex or Power Up or whatever the model might be. I'm always a fan of making it as easy as possible and just like what we have in Wombat, just give you as many transactions as we can for free or whatever model. And there, obviously, whenever you have feedback and you're saying, oh yeah, it would be nice to have kind of more transactions or whatever it may be in terms of resources, we're always happy to hear you and figure something out, right?
no, for sure. I think that increasing the quotas has helped already, but this is just one step. And as Adrian said, we're always open to your feedback if you don't feel like it's enough for how actively you are engaged with the blockchain. Then please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You will always be heard, and your feedback will always be taken into consideration. That much we can definitely promise you. All right, I guess let's go for the final one. What is the best advice, Adrian, that you can give to someone who just started with Womplay and Wombat, or even crypto in general?
The best advice, try out as many things as you can. That's, I think, the best advice, because you'll find things that you've never seen before, and just try them out and really try to use the things that you can find at least once, just to see whether it's for you. And this will give you quite a good overview over what's out there for you, right? I know that this is very difficult. Like I said earlier, in the Ethereum space, where sometimes in order to try something out, you'd have to pay $200 in gas already, plus the assets that you might need to have if you want to buy an NFT or whatever. So that's not great. But if you're new to Womplay and Wombat, you've probably downloaded and played a game or a few. So that's your generally your good first step. But then just download Wombat and see the dApps that are in there in the Explorer. Try them out, and yeah, if you have any questions, reach out to us. We're happy to help. We're happy to, if you have suggestions for the dApp developers, we can always put you in contact with them, or you'll find their Telegram, obviously. Try them out and let us know what you think, because we're trying to provide for the best possible experience. And if you don't know how to deal with it, then we're happy to assist you. And that's my best advice, actually. That's how I've been going about everything, right? I've joined the space quite early on, but I've been always trying. And maybe a fun anecdote: when I was at a blockchain conference back in early 2018, I mean, CryptoKitties was still kind of new, but it was a blockchain conference, right? There were like 400 blockchain quote unquote experts. And when someone asked how many of the people in the audience have bought or dealt with CryptoKitties, I was one of two people at this blockchain conference
Oh
who
God, this
had
is
had
embarrassing.
CryptoKitties. It is, right? But this shows you how little even quote unquote experts actually know about what they can actually do with blockchain, what kind of things are out there, and how these things work, how they feel, right? And I think that's very helpful and very important when it comes to um, catching fire, but
Hmm.
also when it comes to explaining that to other people later on, how cool it is. And yeah, because it's hard to explain the feeling that you have when you're dealing with blockchain, cryptocurrencies, the apps. I've recently had this moment when I thought, hey, why am I playing a game that doesn't give me crypto rewards? Um, when
Exactly.
uh, yeah, right? Why would you like? Why
Why?
would you? There's no going back. Once you've experienced that, there's kind of the urge to have that in all aspects, right? And to suddenly be able to keep your assets that you're kind of finding that you're grinding for in games. You get the feeling you want to keep them, you want to own them, you want to be able to trade them, and if you can't, they're kind of useless after a while. It's fascinating.
No, for sure. I actually remembered one other story about the importance of exploration of the ecosystem. Just a brief one, if you allow me, Adrian. You probably remember Zach, one of our MVPs. Probably has been there since day one for Wombat. Super enthusiastic guy, and all this time he had no idea that we had Emanate in Wombat. When he when he found out that we have it, that resulted in a blog post about it working better than Spotify, better than any kind of music app he's ever tried out. So don't miss out on great experiences with blockchain, guys, because we promise you there are many, and there aren't just Wombat and Womplay, but we know that this is the best of the best, just like you, our community. Couldn't have wished for better, folks, right? They're all so neat. You guys rock. That's a moment of sentiment.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, also from my end.
Yeah, and it's been a wonderful AMA. You are all scattered across the world, but you still found time to join us today. So both Adrian and I thank you for joining the AMA. And as always, there will be a recording of it if you missed out on this. And we hope to see you again the next month.
Thanks a lot for. I think that we've never had so many questions, so thanks a
Absolutely,
lot.
yeah.
Thanks a lot, and see you next time.
See y'all. Bye bye.